story begins in a house located in the city of Virginia where police and forensic teams were conducting an investigation. Actually, a brutal murder had taken place in that house, where 3 members of the household were gruesomely killed. But the strange thing was that nothing had been stolen from the house, nor was there any sign of forced entry from outside. In fact, looking at the condition inside the house, it seemed as if the people living there had been trying to escape. During the investigation, they discovered the body of an unidentified girl in the basement of the house. The girl was naked, and her body was found half buried in the ground. Her body was extremely clean, and there were no signs of injury, which was very unusual, especially considering the other bodies found in the house were in a horrific state. This left everyone shocked and confused. Since they couldn't identify the girl, they gave her the name Jane Doe. Next, we see Tommy and his son Austin at the city morgue, performing an autopsy on a burned corpse. Tommy and his ancestors had been doing this work for the past 3 generations. It was their profession. Tommy was also teaching his son Austin the same trade. A little while later, Austin's girlfriend Emma shows up. Austin and Emma had plans to go see a movie. Before leaving, Emma insists on seeing a dead body and starts pestering Austin about it. At first, Austin hesitates, saying his father might get upset, but just then, Tommy comes in and tells Austin to go ahead and show her a body. Austin pulls out one of the body drawers and shows Emma a corpse. The corpse had a bell tied to its foot. Seeing this, Emma asks, "Why is there a bell tied to the foot of the body?" Tommy explains that back in the day, it was hard to tell if a person was truly dead or just in a coma. So they used to tie a bell to the corpse's foot, and if the bell rang, it meant the person might still be alive. Normally, people don't do this anymore because it's an old trick. But since Tommy was a traditional man, he continued the practice. After some time, Austin and Emma prepare to leave for the movie. Just then, the sheriff arrives with the same unidentified girl's body, the one they had named Jane Doe, for an autopsy. Seeing this, Austin asks Tommy, "Do you need me to stay?" Tommy replies, "You two go ahead, enjoy. I'll handle things here." But Austin wasn't satisfied, so he told Emma, "My dad needs my help right now. Can you come back in a few hours? I promise we'll go watch the midnight show." Saying this, he sends her off and stays back to assist his father. Next, we see the sheriff explaining everything about Jane Doe to Tommy. He says, "We have to give the media some answers by tomorrow morning, but we still don't have a clue about Jane Doe, so we need a complete autopsy report by then." With that, the sheriff leaves. Tommy and Austin then begin the autopsy of Jane Doe. They turn on the radio, which is broadcasting a weather report saying that the clear weather would continue for the next few days. Based on his experience, Tommy estimates that Jane Doe was around 25 to 30 years old. There were no external injuries on her body, but the bones in her wrist and ankle joints were broken. Her tongue had been cut out, and one of her front teeth was missing. Seeing all this, Tommy and Austin start getting confused. When Tommy cuts open her body, they see that Jane Doe's lungs were completely black, as if they had been burned. Her internal organs also showed multiple cut marks. All this suggested that her death had occurred recently, but her eyes were clouded over, like someone who had been dead for a long time, and her body was extremely cold, which indicated that she had died much earlier. Austin noticed that Jane Doe's waist was unnaturally thin compared to the rest of her body. This kind of body shape was common many years ago, when women used to wear corsets, but corsets were no longer in use. As they examined further, they discovered a Jimson weed plant inside Jane Doe's stomach. This plant was known to be used to paralyze people, but it had become very rare and hard to find. Seeing the mysterious nature of Jane Doe's corpse, Tommy and Austin became increasingly confused. As the autopsy progressed, strange and mysterious things began happening. The radio frequency kept changing on its own and repeatedly played the same eerie song, "Open up your heart and let the sunshine in." At the same time, thunder roared outside and lightning flashed across the sky. Just then, Austin felt like someone was standing in the hallway, so he slowly walked toward it. But when he got there, no one was around. However, he noticed their cat seriously injured inside the air duct. The cat was suffering and writhing in pain. Tommy, unable to watch the cat suffer, euthanized it and cremated the body. After that, they resumed Jane Doe's autopsy. At the same time, a warning came through the radio announcing that a storm was approaching the area, along with heavy rain. Hearing all this, Austin tells Tommy, "We can continue the autopsy tomorrow. Let's get out of here for now." But Tommy refuses, explaining that the autopsy has already started and they must submit the report to the police by tomorrow morning, no matter what. So the autopsy continues. During the process, Tommy discovers Jane Doe's missing front tooth inside her stomach. It had been carefully wrapped in a piece of cloth. When they unfold the cloth, they find Roman numerals, strange letters, and bizarre religious symbols drawn on it. Then Tommy peels back the skin from Jane Doe's body and is shocked to find the same kind of symbols etched on the inside of her skin, just like on the cloth. This horrifies both Tommy and Austin. Austin starts theorizing. Whoever did this to Jane Doe must have first restrained her, then cut out her tongue, forced her to swallow Jimson weed to paralyze her, ripped out her tooth, wrapped it in that cloth, and forced her to swallow it. And as if that wasn't enough, they even tried to burn her. This looks like some kind of human sacrifice. He turns to Tommy and says, "Dad, we need to get out of here now." Suddenly, all the lights start to burst and explode, plunging the room into darkness. They quickly turn on the backup lights and notice something even more disturbing. All the other corpses in the room have vanished. Only Jane Doe's body remains. Now Tommy also realizes that something is seriously wrong. He and Austin decide to escape the place, but the elevator is no longer working, and the main door is blocked by a fallen tree due to the storm outside. At that moment, an invisible force attacks Tommy, injuring him. They manage to reach the office room and try to contact the police, but unfortunately, they can't get through. By this time, they've both realized that some kind of negative or supernatural force is linked to Jane Doe, so they decide to burn her body. Tommy and Austin return to the autopsy room and start moving Jane Doe's body toward the crematorium. But the autopsy room door slams shut on its own. Austin tries desperately to open it, but fails. With no other option left, they decide to burn Jane Doe's body right there in the autopsy room. Tommy sets her body on fire. The fire quickly spreads throughout the room, burning the recording equipment, Jane Doe's photos, and everything else connected to her. Seeing the fire engulfing the entire room, Tommy grabs a fire extinguisher and manages to put it out. But then they notice something truly terrifying. Although Jane Doe's body was set on fire, it hasn't burned at all. Her body remains completely untouched, just the way it was. Seeing this, Tommy and Austin are completely stunned. They can't stop staring at her in disbelief. Suddenly, the elevator activates on its own. They quickly run toward it and get inside. But unfortunately, the elevator doors won't close. Just then, they hear the sound of a bell, the same bell that had been tied to the foot of a corpse. Tommy sees that the corpse with the bell is slowly moving toward them. Panicked, Tommy grabs an axe and strikes it. But when Austin steps out of the elevator to take a closer look, he is horrified to realize that it wasn't just any corpse. It was his girlfriend, Emma, the same Emma he had told to come back a few hours later. Emma dies from Tommy's blow. Austin breaks down in tears, and Tommy, overwhelmed with regret, begins blaming himself. At this point, both Tommy and Austin finally understand. Jane Doe is not only preventing them from escaping, but she's also stopping them from uncovering the true cause of her death. Still, Tommy and Austin return to the autopsy room to continue the examination, hoping they might find some way to stop her. They now remove Jane Doe's brain and begin examining it. The moment Austin looks at the brain under the microscope, he's completely shocked. He asks Tommy to look as well. As soon as Tommy peers into the microscope, he too is stunned. Because in a dead person, brain cells should be completely inactive. But Jane Doe's brain cells were still active, which meant that somehow Jane Doe was still alive. Tommy and Austin then further examine the cloth they had found inside her stomach. On it, they find written Leviticus 20:27 in the year 1693. Tommy pulls out a Bible and starts reading. He discovers that Leviticus 20:27 talks about the punishment of witches, and the year 1693 directly connects to the infamous Salem witch trials that happened in the Northeast. In reality, the Salem witch trials were a series of hearings and prosecutions in 1693 in the village of Salem, where innocent young women were accused of witchcraft, tortured, and unjustly punished. Looking at Jane Doe's body, they begin to suspect that maybe she too was a victim of those trials. But now Jane Doe may have truly become a witch, and she was taking revenge through her cursed, preserved body. That means her body, untouched and intact since 1693, was no ordinary corpse. It was a living vessel of a demonic force. Realizing all of this, Tommy says, "Everything we're doing, she can feel it. She's aware of it all. We've learned more about her than anyone ever has, so she won't let us leave." Tommy then walks up to Jane Doe's body and pleads, "Do whatever you want with me, but please don't hurt my son." As soon as he says that, Tommy's wrists and ankle joints begin to break, in exactly the same way Jane Doe's had been broken. Simultaneously, the injuries Jane Doe had received during the autopsy begin to heal on her body. as if the pain and damage were being transferred to Tommy instead. The wounds Jane Doe endured were visible only on the inside of her body. There were no marks of injury on the outside. This revealed that for centuries, Jane Doe had been healing her own wounds by inflicting pain on others. Each time she healed, only Jane Doe's outer body recovered, making her appear unchanged, but her inner wounds never healed. Now in agony, Tommy pleads with Austin, "Kill me to ease my pain." At first, Austin refuses, but for the sake of his father, he reluctantly, with tears in his eyes, stabs Tommy in the chest with a knife, killing him. At that moment, the sheriff's voice comes from outside. Austin quickly gets up and heads toward the exit door. The sheriff calls out from outside, telling Austin to open the door. Austin tries desperately to unlock it, but the door won't budge. So, Austin shouts to the sheriff, "I can't get the door open." Just then, the sheriff begins singing from outside, "Open up your heart, let the sun shine in." Hearing this, Austin is shocked because it was the same song that played repeatedly on the radio, with the frequency changing on its own, while he and Tommy were performing Jane Doe's autopsy. Terrified, Austin starts backing away. Then he hears the sound of a bell below, but when he looks down, no one is there. Suddenly, Austin sees his father, Tommy, which startles him, causing him to fall over the railing to his death. The next morning, the sheriff and his police team arrive at the scene. They are stunned by what they see, unable to comprehend what happened. The crime scene leaves the police confused, just as they were at the film's opening crime scene. Here we see Jane Doe's body, completely intact, as if her autopsy or post-mortem had never even begun. The police then place Jane Doe's body into an ambulance to be sent to another location for autopsy. As Jane Doe's body is loaded into the ambulance, the same song begins playing on the ambulance's radio, with the lyrics, "Open up your heart and let the sun shine in." Now we are shown Jane Doe's foot, where we see her wiggle her big toe, and with this chilling scene, the film ends.